The night started like any other, but what unfolded would send shockwaves through the lives of Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda in ways no one could have anticipated. Fans are still reeling from the whispers, the rumors, and now the undeniable proof. Late last night, an explosive video surfaced online showing Kirk and Jasmine in a private hotel suite, and the reactions have been nothing short of chaotic. Emotions ran high as viewers watched the footage, and the fallout is already tearing through friendships, families, and social media alike. Everyone is asking the same question: what really happened behind those closed doors? Rasheeda, who had no idea this night would become the center of an internet firestorm, walked into the scene just minutes later, and the shock on her face says it all. The hotel, once a quiet retreat, has become the epicenter of a scandal fans are calling the most shocking revelation of the year. Inside the footage, every gesture, every whispered word, and every subtle glance tells a story of betrayal, secrets, and tension that could not stay hidden any longer. Rumors of previous conflicts between the trio now take on a whole new meaning, as the lines between loyalty and deception blur right before your eyes. The stakes are higher than ever, and alliances are on the verge of collapse. Every fan, every friend, and every member of the family watching this video is left questioning who can be trusted. As you watch the drama unfold, prepare yourself for explosive confrontations, unexpected twists, and emotional moments that no one saw coming. The questions are piling up. Did Kirk betray Rasheeda's trust? How does Jasmine fit into this web of secrets? And most importantly, what will happen when the truth finally comes out? Tonight, the tension is palpable, the emotions are raw, and the secrets that were meant to stay hidden have finally been exposed. You won't want to blink, you might miss the moment that changes everything. Fans are already commenting, speculating, and taking sides, and the family is left divided like never before. This is more than just a scandal, it's a whirlwind of emotions, a test of loyalty, and a story that will keep everyone talking for weeks. What you're about to see isn't just drama, it's a window into a world of hidden tensions, secret alliances, and shocking revelations that were never meant to be seen. Rasheeda's reaction, captured in real time, adds another layer of intensity that fans are calling unmistakable. The stage is set, the players are in place, and the fallout has only just begun. You are about to witness a scandal that will dominate conversations, ignite debates, and leave no one untouched. Stay tuned, because what happens next will redefine everything you thought you knew about Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda. The hotel room was quiet at first, almost eerily so, as Kirk stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. Jasmine was already there, pacing nervously near the window, her phone clutched tightly in her hand, eyes darting toward the door every few seconds as if expecting someone to appear. The atmosphere was tense, thick with unspoken words, and the faint hum of the air conditioner seemed louder than it should. Kirk's footsteps echoed softly across the carpet, and when he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost cautious. "I didn't think anyone would be here tonight," he said, trying to keep his tone neutral, but Jasmine could hear the underlying tension, the hesitation, the worry that something could go wrong at any moment. She turned to face him fully, her expression a mix of relief and apprehension. "Well, here I am," she replied, her voice trembling slightly, betraying the anxiety she tried so hard to hide. The room felt smaller, more claustrophobic, as they both tried to navigate the silent war of glances, gestures, and subtle body language. Kirk moved toward the bed, sitting down carefully, hands clasped together as if bracing himself for what was about to come. Jasmine hesitated for a moment, then slowly took a seat opposite him, her eyes never leaving his face. The tension between them was palpable, like a storm about to break, and every second that passed seemed to stretch on endlessly. "You know we shouldn't be doing this," she whispered, her fingers nervously fidgeting with the edge of the blanket. Kirk's eyes hardened slightly, a flash of frustration crossing his face. "I know," he said, "but it's too late to turn back now." The weight of his words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. As they spoke, neither noticed the faint click of the door handle, a sound so soft it could easily be mistaken for the settling of the building. But Rasheeda was there, standing just outside the door, frozen as she realized exactly what she had stumbled upon. Her heart raced, a mixture of shock, betrayal, and disbelief coursing through her veins. She had seen enough in her life to recognize a situation when it was spiraling out of control, but nothing had prepared her for this. Kirk and Jasmine, the people she thought she knew, were entangled in something she had never imagined, and the camera in her hand trembled slightly as she tried to process it all. Inside the room, Kirk leaned back, running a hand through his hair, his eyes searching Jasmine's face for reassurance or understanding. though neither came easily. "This isn't just about us," he muttered, the words barely audible, yet carrying a weight that made Jasmine flinch. "It's about everything that's coming next. The lies, the secrets, they're all catching up." Jasmine swallowed hard, the lump in her throat making it difficult to speak. I can't do this anymore, Kirk," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Every time we try, it's like the walls are closing in, and I feel like everyone is watching." Kirk's jaw tightened, his own emotions threatening to boil over. "They are watching," he said bluntly, the truth cutting through the room like a knife. "And soon, Rasheeda will know everything." At the very moment he said those words, Rasheeda pushed the door slightly. Enough to see them both, her body frozen, her mind racing 1,000 miles a minute. She had never felt betrayal so sharply before, the sense of being blindsided so sudden and so deep that it took her breath away. Her hands gripped the doorframe as she struggled to make sense of what she was witnessing. Inside the room, Kirk and Jasmine were oblivious, caught up in their own tangled web of emotion, tension, and secrecy. Kirk stood suddenly, pacing the length of the room, his voice rising despite himself. "We can't keep hiding it, Jasmine. Every lie we tell just makes it worse. It's only a matter of time before everything comes out." Jasmine buried her face in her hands, the weight of the moment crashing down on her like a tidal wave. I know, but what can we do? What's left for us now?" Kirk stopped mid-step, staring out the window at the city lights below, the hum of the traffic far beneath them doing nothing to soothe his racing mind. "We survive, we fix what we can, but some things can't be fixed." Meanwhile, outside Rasheeda's mind was a storm of questions, anger, and heartbreak. She had trusted Kirk, she had trusted Jasmine, and now every ounce of that trust felt like it had been ripped from her hands. Tears pricked her eyes, but she forced herself to stay quiet, to remain hidden, to understand before reacting. The footage she had captured on her phone would be damning. Explosive, undeniable evidence of everything that had been happening behind closed doors. She realized that this moment, this exact instant, would change the course of their lives forever. Inside the hotel room, the conversation shifted as Kirk and Jasmine tried to rationalize, to find a way to make sense of the chaos that had enveloped them. "I can't keep pretending," Jasmine said, her voice trembling. "I can't lie to everyone, Kirk. They all deserve the truth, even if it hurts." Kirk ran his hands over his face, sighing deeply. "And we will tell them," he replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "But we need a plan. We need to control it, or it will control us." The room seemed to close in further, the walls now witnesses to the tension, the secrets, and the inevitable fallout. Each glance, each gesture, each whispered word carried with it the weight of unspoken truths, past betrayals, and uncertain futures. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind that makes hearts pound and palms sweat. Just then, Kirk's phone buzzed, and he glanced down at the screen, only to stiffen at the message. It was Rasheeda. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. She had seen everything. The blood drained from his face, and he looked at Jasmine, eyes wide with panic. "She knows," he whispered, almost inaudibly. Jasmine froze, her hands trembling as she tried to process the revelation. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, fear creeping into every syllable. Kirk's mind raced, calculating, weighing options, considering the consequences of every possible action. "We face it," he said finally, his voice firm but tense. "We can't run anymore. We can't hide." Rasheeda, standing silently outside, felt a mixture of triumph and devastation. She had stumbled upon the truth, captured it, and now held the power that could unravel everything. Yet beneath her anger was a deeper, more complicated emotion: confusion, disbelief, and a heartbreaking sense of betrayal. The footage on her phone glowed faintly, each second a reminder of the secret lives, hidden alliances, and untold stories that had led to this explosive moment. Inside the room, Kirk took a deep breath, pacing once more. "We need to be honest," he said, his voice steadying. "With ourselves, with everyone. Nothing good comes from hiding anymore." Jasmine nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I just wish it didn't have to be like this," she whispered, the weight of her choices pressing heavily on her chest. Outside, Rasheeda exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly as she realized that the moment had arrived. The confrontation, the fallout, the drama, it was all inevitable now. There was no turning back, no retreat, no chance to rewind. Every fan, every friend, every family member who would eventually see this footage would react, speculate, and take sides. The hotel room, once a place of temporary escape, had become a stage for betrayal, secrets, and revelations that would echo far beyond its walls. The night stretched on, thick with anticipation, emotion, and the unspoken understanding that nothing would ever be the same again. Kirk and Jasmine, wrapped in their tangled web of secrets, tension, and fear, were about to face the most explosive consequences of their actions. And Rasheeda, standing just beyond the door, held the key to it all. The evidence that would ignite conversations, arguments, and debates for weeks to come. The stage was set, the players were in position, and the drama had only just begun. Every word spoken, every glance exchanged, every second captured on camera would fuel speculation, outrage, and intrigue. The city outside continued its hum, indifferent to the storm raging inside the hotel suite. Inside, emotions ran high, secrets tumbled into the open, and the first cracks in relationships long thought unbreakable began to show. The night was far from over, and by morning, nothing would be the same. The tension in the hotel room had reached a boiling point. Yet Kirk and Jasmine remained trapped in their own bubble of secrecy, unaware of the full extent of Rasheeda's presence just beyond the door. Kirk's pacing grew more erratic, his hands running through his hair as he muttered to himself, trying to piece together a plan that could somehow mitigate the fallout. "We can't just let this leak," he said, voice low but intense. "It's going to destroy everything if it gets out like this." Jasmine sat on the edge of the bed, shoulders hunched, staring at the floor as though the carpet held the answers to questions she was too afraid to ask. "And if she posts it," she whispered, a shiver running down her spine, "then we're done, Kirk." She won't hold back. The reality of Rasheeda's knowledge began to sink in, and with it, the sheer power she now wielded. Outside, she clutched her phone tighter, the video glowing softly in her hand. Every second of footage confirmed what she had feared but never fully imagined. Her mind raced, weighing revenge against restraint, disclosure against discretion. The room inside continued its electric chaos, with Kirk finally stopping mid-step, turning to Jasmine with an intensity that made her flinch. "We need to be honest," he said again, though this time, there was a sharper edge, a note of desperation. "Honest with each other, at least. We can't fix what we don't acknowledge." Jasmine lifted her tear-streaked face, eyes wide with a mix of fear, sorrow, and lingering affection. "I can't keep lying," she admitted. "I can't, but if Rasheeda sees this, everything we've worked for will be over." Kirk exhaled sharply, moving toward the minibar for a glass of water, his back to her as if the simple act could steady his fraying nerves. "We're in too deep," he said quietly, more to himself than to her. "We always have been. Now it's just a matter of surviving the storm." The storm, indeed, was gathering outside, though they could not hear the rumble of it yet. Rasheeda's fingers hovered over the screen, each second of the footage amplifying the betrayal she felt. She had watched Kirk move with calculated subtlety, heard Jasmine's whispered confessions, seen the tension and hesitation in every glance. And now she knew exactly where she stood. The hotel room had become a theater of secrets, a stage set for confrontation, and a trap she had walked into unknowingly but with full consequence. Inside, Kirk finally sat down next to Jasmine, their knees almost touching, both aware that this proximity carried a weight neither could fully carry. "We have to talk about it," Kirk said, voice low but firm. "Everything. No more hiding." Jasmine nodded, swallowing hard. "Then let's start," she murmured, voice barely audible, the edge of panic creeping in as the gravity of the moment hit her. They spoke in hushed tones at first, parsing out truths they had kept from each other. The words heavy, weighted, and sometimes broken by emotion. Kirk admitted moments of doubt, fear, and secret desires, while Jasmine revealed her own insecurities, moments of regret, and the pressures she had felt from every side. Outside, Rasheeda shifted her weight, her mind a tornado of emotions. She was angry, heartbroken, and yet strangely compelled to see how far this confrontation would go. She knew once she stepped in, nothing could be undone. The footage in her phone seemed to pulse with each heartbeat, a living record of the tension inside, waiting for her to decide its fate. Kirk finally leaned back, his hands covering his face as exhaustion and frustration took over. "We're trapped," he admitted, "trapped by our choices, by our mistakes, by the people who care about us, and by ourselves." Jasmine's hand found his, a brief touch that was fleeting but full of unspoken acknowledgement. "Then we handle it together," she whispered. "Whatever comes, we face it. At least we face it together." The irony was not lost on them that Rasheeda, standing mere feet away, held the power to make or break everything with a single tap on her phone. The air between the three of them, though unseen, was electric, charged with secrecy, betrayal, and the potential for explosive confrontation. Kirk's phone buzzed again, Another message lighting up the screen. He glanced at it, eyes widening. Rasheeda had sent a single line. "I saw everything. We need to talk." The words were simple, yet they carried the weight of 1,000 emotions, the gravity of 1,000 scenarios. Inside, Kirk's heart raced, the sense of doom creeping into every thought. Jasmine mirrored him, silent but trembling. Outside, Rasheeda exhaled slowly, realizing the power she now had and the responsibility it carried. She could confront, expose, or even remain silent, but each choice carried consequences that none of them could fully predict. The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in, as Kirk and Jasmine stared at each other, knowing that the next moments would determine the trajectory of their relationships, reputations, and personal lives. The stakes were higher than ever. Emotions ran high, with past betrayals, unspoken desires, and secrets bubbling to the surface in a way that could no longer be contained. Kirk and Jasmine tried to compose themselves, voices low, movements deliberate, but the tension was undeniable. They could feel the presence of Rasheeda even without her being physically inside, the weight of her gaze, the awareness of being seen, captured, and judged. It was a test of nerves, a battle of willpower, and an emotional tightrope that neither could afford to falter on. Outside, Rasheeda shifted slightly, stepping back from the doorway, the faintest of sounds alerting Kirk to her presence. His eyes snapped toward the door, realization dawning like a lightning strike. "She's here," he whispered, his voice barely audible, but the panic in it impossible to miss. Jasmine froze, hand over her mouth, eyes wide. The reality of Rasheeda witnessing every private word, every confession, every emotion crashed over them both like a tidal wave. The hotel room that had once felt like a private sanctuary now felt like a stage under an unrelenting spotlight. Kirk tried to steady himself, swallowing hard, looking toward Jasmine with a mix of fear and determination. "We face it," he said, repetition now carrying more urgency than before. "No more hiding. No more pretending." Jasmine nodded, tears streaming silently, the weight of her decisions pressing down on her. Outside, Rasheeda exhaled, a low hum escaping her lips, the tension in her body, a mirror of the chaos inside. She had the footage, she had the power, and she had the truth. And soon, everything would collide in ways none of them could fully control. Kirk's hands shook slightly as he reached for the doorknob, knowing full well what awaited on the other side. Jasmine's grip on his arm tightened instinctively. A silent plea for caution, for reason, for a chance to delay the inevitable. But Rasheeda was already there, her eyes sharp, unwavering, filled with a storm of emotion that Kirk could feel even from a few steps away. "You two need to explain." Rasheeda's voice was calm but edged with fury. Every word deliberate, each syllable weighted with accusation. Kirk swallowed hard, the words catching in his throat. And Jasmine's eyes darted between them, a mixture of guilt, fear, and anticipation written clearly on her face. He exhaled slowly, finally meeting Rasheeda's gaze. We didn't want you to find out like this," he admitted, voice breaking slightly, the confession heavy with truth. Rasheeda's expression didn't soften. If anything, it sharpened, cutting through the fragile tension like a knife. "Then why hide it?" she demanded, stepping fully into the room now, the camera in her hand a silent testament to what she had witnessed. The gravity of her presence pressed down on both Kirk and Jasmine, making the air feel dense, almost suffocating. Jasmine's voice trembled, a whisper that barely carried. "We thought we could handle it ourselves. We didn't want to hurt anyone." Rasheeda's lips tightened into a thin line, a mixture of disappointment and rage simmering just beneath the surface. "Handle it yourselves," she echoed, her tone sharp. "You've been lying, scheming, hiding everything while pretending like nothing matters. Do you even realize what this looks like?" Kirk's shoulders slumped, the weight of Rasheeda's words finally settling fully on him. "We messed up," he admitted quietly. "We never wanted to hurt anyone. It happened." The word "happened" hung in the air, almost absurd in its simplicity given the chaos it had unleashed. Rasheeda took a step closer, the camera still in her hand, the faint glow reflecting in her eyes. "You call this just happening?" she demanded. "Do you know how many people are going to see this? How many people are going to judge, talk, speculate?" Kirk glanced at Jasmine, both of them frozen, realizing that the secret they had guarded so carefully was now fully exposed, and there was no turning back. The silence stretched for a long moment, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioning and the distant sounds of the city outside. Finally, Kirk spoke, his voice low but resolute. "We'll face it. We'll deal with it. Whatever comes, we'll handle it together." Rasheeda's gaze flickered between them, assessing, judging, deciding. Her emotions were a maelstrom: betrayal, anger, disbelief, and a deep, aching hurt that seemed to radiate from every pore. Together, she repeated, disbelief lacing the word. You think this is something we can just fix by pretending it didn't happen, by holding hands and saying everything will be okay. Jasmine's eyes welled up with tears, the weight of the situation pressing on her like a vice. We didn't mean for it to go this far, she pleaded. Please, Rasheeda, But Kirk gently placed a hand over her mouth, stopping the words that could only inflame the situation further. He turned to Rasheeda, eyes pleading for understanding, for mercy, for a chance to explain. Listen, he said, voice steadying despite the panic behind his eyes. We need to talk. Not yell, not fight. Just talk. We owe that much, at least. Rasheeda paused, the camera lowering slightly as she considered the offer. The anger was still there, but curiosity, a need for answers, and the desire to understand the full picture kept her from storming out. Fine, she said finally, voice tight, controlled, but this conversation starts now, and it ends with the truth. No excuses. The trio settled into an uneasy triangle in the room, each aware of the tension, the stakes, and the fragile trust that had to be rebuilt, or risked shattering entirely. Kirk leaned back against the wall, rubbing his temples, trying to find the words that could explain, that could bridge the chasm that now separated them. Jasmine sat with hands clasped tightly in her lap, the tears still streaking her cheeks, waiting, hoping, fearing. Rasheeda's gaze never wavered, the camera still in hand. A silent witness to every nuance, every micro-expression, every unspoken thought. It started, Kirk began slowly, a few weeks ago. We thought it was harmless at first, just moments, just feelings, nothing serious, just. He trailed off, unable to find the right words, the weight of the truth pressing on him. Jasmine reached over, taking his hand, giving a subtle squeeze, a reassurance that they were in this together. It felt like we had no choice, she whispered, voice shaking. Everything was piling up, and we just lost control. Rasheeda's jaw tightened, anger boiling just beneath the surface. Lost control, she repeated incredulously. Do you know how that sounds? It sounds like every excuse you've ever made, every lie you've ever told, all rolled into one convenient story. Do you think I'm stupid? Kirk shook his head vigorously. No, you're not, he admitted, voice raw. We didn't think. We never planned for this to be seen, for anyone to know. It just happened. The word happened again, echoing in the room, striking like a hammer against delicate glass. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed, the hurt behind them palpable, cutting deeper than anger alone could. You're saying it just happened, she said slowly, voice icy. Like we're supposed to understand that. Like the pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, it just happened. Kirk swallowed, struggling to find the right words. We were selfish, he admitted. We wanted to protect ourselves, our feelings, whatever this is between us. We didn't think about the consequences, about how it would affect you, how it would affect everyone. Jasmine nodded, tears spilling freely now. We were wrong. We know that now. We want a chance to make it right. Rasheeda's lips pressed into a thin line, her breathing slow but controlled, the internal battle obvious. Part of her wanted to scream, to throw the phone, to leave and never look back. But another part, the part that had always cared, that had always believed in the possibility of reconciliation, held her in place, forcing her to listen, to understand, to see the raw, exposed truth in front of her. This isn't easy for me, she said finally, voice trembling slightly. But I need to know that you mean what you're saying, that this isn't just another lie to cover up the last one. Kirk reached out, voice earnest. Rasheeda, everything we're saying is real. I know it doesn't undo anything, but we're done hiding. We're done pretending. We want to fix it, if you'll let us. The tension in the room seemed to shift slightly, the storm momentarily abating, replaced by the fragile, tentative hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be salvaged. Outside, the city lights twinkled indifferently, unaware of the emotional earthquake raging in the hotel suite above. Inside, Rasheeda exhaled slowly, lowering the camera slightly. The room was still heavy with the weight of secrets, betrayal, and unspoken truths. But for the first time in hours, a path narrow, uncertain, and fraught with peril appeared, leading toward confrontation, understanding, and perhaps a fragile reconciliation. The night was far from over, but the first steps had been taken. Every glance, every word, every trembling gesture carried significance, and none of them could predict how the fallout would ripple outward, touching lives, igniting speculation, and forever altering the dynamics between Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda. The hotel suite had become a crucible of emotion, a stage for the most intense drama imaginable. And each of them knew that what happened tonight would define everything that came after. The room grew heavier with each passing moment, the silence thick, broken only by the occasional intake of breath as Rasheeda processed everything she had just witnessed. Kirk and Jasmine sat side by side, their bodies tense, their eyes locked on her, waiting for the inevitable explosion of anger or disappointment that they both feared and expected. Rasheeda's gaze flickered from Kirk to Jasmine, her mind racing, weighing every word, every gesture, every nuance of the situation. She had spent years believing in loyalty, trust, and honesty. And now every one of those beliefs felt shattered in a single instant. "Do you understand what you've done?" she asked finally, her voice low but cutting through the thick tension of the room. Kirk swallowed hard, the lump in his throat making it almost impossible to speak. "I do," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "We understand. We never wanted it to go this far." Jasmine nodded, tears streaking her cheeks. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We lost our way." Rasheeda shook her head, frustration and hurt intertwining in a storm behind her eyes. "Lost your way? This isn't a road trip, Kirk. This is real life. You've hurt everyone, and the consequences aren't something you can just wish away." Kirk ran a hand down his face, eyes closing for a moment as he exhaled deeply. "We know, and we're ready to face it. All of it. Whatever comes, we'll deal with it." The words hung in the air, fragile and tentative, as Rasheeda considered whether she could believe them, whether she could trust that this confession wasn't just another layer of deceit. The hotel room, once a place of temporary escape for Kirk and Jasmine, had transformed into a battlefield of emotions, with Rasheeda holding the moral high ground, the undeniable truth captured in the footage on her phone. Every movement, every whispered word, every subtle glance had been documented, leaving them exposed and vulnerable in ways they could not fully comprehend. The tension escalated further as Rasheeda stepped closer, her fingers brushing the screen of her phone lightly, almost testing the power she now held. "You do realize," she said slowly, "that what I have here, what I've seen, changes everything. It isn't just between us. This will affect friends, family, fans, everyone who looks up to you. Are you ready for that?" Kirk's eyes widened slightly, the weight of reality pressing down hard. "We'll handle it," he said firmly, though the certainty in his voice was fragile. Tentative, Jasmine's hand found his again, their fingers intertwining, a silent promise that they were facing this storm together. Rasheeda exhaled, the battle between rage and reason waging internally. She had the choice to escalate, to unleash the footage and destroy reputations, or to confront them, demand accountability, and perhaps guide them toward making amends. "Fine," she said finally, voice steady but icy. "We'll talk. But this ends tonight. No lies, no excuses. You're going to tell me everything." Kirk nodded, his voice barely audible but full of determination. "We will. Every detail." Jasmine's head bowed, tears flowing freely now, the weight of guilt and fear evident in every movement. The conversation that followed was raw, unfiltered, and charged with emotion. Kirk recounted moments of weakness, times of misjudgment, the subtle ways their actions had spiraled out of control. Jasmine revealed her own fears, insecurities, and the pressure she had felt to maintain appearances while navigating the increasingly tangled web of secrecy. Rasheeda listened, her eyes never leaving them, absorbing each confession, each nuance, each hint of regret and remorse. She could feel the authenticity, the honesty, and yet the betrayal remained sharp, cutting deep into the fragile foundation of trust that had once existed. "You expect me to just accept this?" Rasheeda asked finally, voice shaking slightly despite her composure. Kirk exhaled, the weight of guilt pressing down like a physical force. "No," he said simply. "We don't expect forgiveness right now. We want you to know the truth. We want to start making it right, even if it takes time." The tension in the room was almost unbearable, the emotional stakes higher than ever. Outside, the distant city lights flickered, unaware of the storm that had taken over the hotel suite. Every second, every word, every glance was charged with consequences that none of them could yet predict. Rasheeda's fingers hovered over the phone again, the footage still glowing softly, a silent reminder of everything that had happened, of the power she held, and of the irreversible nature of what had been captured. Kirk and Jasmine remained seated, hands clasped, hearts pounding, bracing for whatever verdict Rasheeda would deliver. The room was a crucible of emotion, testing loyalties, exposing vulnerabilities, and forcing every hidden truth into the open. As the minutes stretched on, a fragile calm began to settle, a tentative truce born not out of forgiveness, but out of necessity. understanding that the night was far from over and that the repercussions would ripple outward in ways none of them could yet imagine. Rasheeda finally lowered her phone completely, the glow reflecting faintly in her eyes. "We'll deal with this," she said finally, her voice carrying both warning and resolve. "But know this, everything you've done, every choice, every secret, it all has consequences, and you'll have to face them, sooner or later." Kirk nodded, swallowing hard, understanding the gravity of her words. The weight of accountability pressing down on him like never before. Jasmine's hand squeezed his gently, a silent acknowledgement that they were in this together, facing a storm that could either destroy them or force them to confront the truth in ways they had never dared before. The night was far from over. Emotions ran high. Secrets had been revealed, and the fragile beginnings of accountability had taken root. The hotel suite had become a crucible of honesty, confrontation, and revelation, with every second carrying implications that would ripple through their lives, their relationships, and the circle of people who would inevitably become entangled in the fallout. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside, a chaotic dance of tension, betrayal, and the faintest glimmer of possible reconciliation. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda sat in the uneasy silence, hearts pounding, minds racing, knowing that the night had only just begun, and that every choice from this point forward would shape the path ahead in ways none of them could yet predict. The air in the hotel room remained thick with tension as the three of them sat in an uneasy triangle, the weight of secrets and confessions pressing down like a tangible force. Kirk ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting between Jasmine and Rasheeda, searching for any sign of leniency, understanding, or forgiveness. Jasmine sat hunched forward, hands clasped tightly in her lap, the tears she had tried to hold back now streaming freely, each one a testament to the emotional storm they were trapped in. Rasheeda, camera in hand, remained the arbiter of truth, her presence a constant reminder that nothing could be hidden any longer. "You know," Rasheeda said finally, voice calm but laced with underlying fury, "this isn't just about what I've seen tonight. This is about everything you've done to get here. Every lie, every omission, every little secret that's been building up to this moment." Kirk's jaw tightened, the sting of accountability settling heavily on his shoulders. "We know," he admitted, voice low but steady. "We're ready to face it. All of it." Jasmine nodded, her voice barely audible. "We'll do whatever it takes to make it right." Rasheeda's eyes softened just slightly, but the hurt remained palpable. "Making it right isn't as simple as words," she said, her tone deliberate, measured. "Actions matter. Trust can't just be patched up with apologies. It has to be rebuilt, piece by piece." Kirk swallowed hard, taking in the enormity of her words. "We understand," he said quietly, "and we'll work on it, whatever it takes. We're done hiding." The room seemed to hold its breath, the weight of the moment pressing on all three of them. Outside, the hum of the city went on, indifferent to the emotional upheaval taking place just above its streets. Inside, the fragile beginnings of reconciliation were taking root, tempered by the undeniable reality of betrayal and the long road of accountability that lay ahead. Rasheeda took a step closer, lowering the camera slightly, though the glow from the screen still reflected the intensity in her eyes. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she admitted, voice trembling ever so slightly, "but I do know that I need to understand, and that starts with honesty. No more lies, no more hiding, nothing left in the dark." Kirk nodded, his hands clasped together tightly. "We're ready. Everything we've done, everything we've kept from you, you'll know it all. We won't hide anything anymore." Jasmine reached over, touching Kirk's hand briefly, a silent show of unity and shared responsibility. The next hour was a flood of confessions, explanations, and emotional revelations. Kirk recounted moments of weakness, the small choices that had spiraled into something uncontrollable. Jasmine revealed her own fears, the pressure of expectations, and the moments she had allowed secrecy to cloud her judgment. Rasheeda listened, absorbing every word, every nuance, every flicker of guilt or sincerity. The tension ebbed and flowed, rising with each revelation and falling with moments of tentative understanding. The footage on Rasheeda's phone loomed like a silent observer, a constant reminder that the truth was captured in irrefutable detail. Every glance, every gesture, every whispered word had been documented, leaving Kirk and Jasmine exposed and vulnerable in a way that left no room for denial. "Do you realize," Rasheeda said finally, her voice cutting through the quiet, "that everyone who sees this friend's family, fans, they're going to judge you. They're going to speculate. They're going to take sides." Kirk's throat tightened, the magnitude of the situation pressing down with a weight that seemed almost unbearable. "We understand," he whispered, the words fragile but genuine. "We'll face it. We'll accept whatever comes. Together. Jasmine nodded, eyes brimming with tears. We just want a chance to make it right. To show that we can be honest, that we can be better. Rasheeda exhaled slowly, her fingers brushing the screen of her phone lightly. The power she held was immense, and the responsibility weighed heavily on her. She could expose everything in a single moment, or she could guide them toward accountability, confrontation, and perhaps, a path toward redemption. Fine, she said finally, voice steady, controlled. We'll do this my way. But know this: the moment you step out of line, the moment you lie, it's over. No second chances. You've already burned too many bridges. Kirk and Jasmine nodded in unison, the gravity of her words sinking in deeply. We understand, Kirk said firmly. We won't make that mistake again. The night stretched on, heavy with confessions, revelations, and the raw intensity of emotions laid bare. Kirk and Jasmine faced the consequences of their actions. Piece by piece, moment by moment, under the unwavering gaze of Rasheeda. Each admission carried with it the weight of truth, the burden of accountability, and the fragile hope that perhaps, in time, trust could be rebuilt. Outside, the city remained oblivious, unaware that within a single hotel suite, relationships were being tested, secrets exposed, and the foundations of loyalty and trust re-evaluated under the harsh light of revelation. The hours blurred together as the trio navigated the treacherous waters of honesty, guilt, and the first tentative steps toward possible reconciliation. The storm of emotions inside the room mirrored the storm outside, unseen but undeniably present, reflecting the intensity of the unfolding drama. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda sat in a tense silence for a few moments, each processing what had been revealed, what had been confessed, and what the future now held. The hotel suite had become a crucible, testing their resilience, their honesty, and their ability to confront the most uncomfortable truths.